Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rituals of Strength, your personal pathway to strength, and this week, I dare say, transformation. I'm your host, Kevin Secours, and it is my extreme honor to have two fairly new but very good friends as guests. Ashley Hecht and Chris Oklevitch are two Florida-based self-defense instructors who I had the good fortune of meeting at a seminar. I guess it was about a year ago, was it? I think so, year and a half.
Yeah.
And since then, we've had the opportunity to train together many times. They are doing some incredibly essential work, I feel, in the field of self defense and particularly in trauma informed instruction. And they have a brand new book out, which we're going to get into at length. Ashley and Chris, how are you guys today?
We're well, thank you.
Man, it's good to see you again. I know I just saw you a few weeks ago. We were in Germany together. Was a wild experience. We had outdoor lunch and saw somebody get attacked with a hammer. Uh, and then the next day on your train ride home, you got to witness security choking out some other guy. So it
Yeah,
was
continued, yes.
soon with violence. I always like to start the same way by asking people what motivated them to get into training and what's their origin story. So I'd like to hear from each of you. How did you get involved in martial and self-defense training?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go first? Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I had come in originally I was trying to bring my niece with me, and then she didn't show up. So, um, I just came in because I wanted her to be able to take a class, and finally ended up here. I did like a bunch of research trying to find a place, and I didn't really know what I was looking for. And then this was just like straightforward self-defense, so I thought that would be cool. And from that first time taking a class, everything kind of just took off. Like it was the perfect fit for me. And I didn't realize like how much I needed it. And it made a huge difference for me. And then like the only thing I'd done before was doing like Taekwondo when I was really little. So I don't know, it was just really awesome being here.
That's very
Yeah.
little. It's like very little.
It's so small.
She was tiny, yeah. Yeah, and she fell right into it. So she seemed like it was a natural, like, so just kept the journey going, and you haven't left since.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
Chris,
um
how'd you get started?
I was thinking about that the other day when I was looking at the question again, and I think where it really started was I remember when I must have been like 12 years old. My father sent my sister and I to go take a self-defense class, and he mainly sent it was for her, but she made me come along with her younger brother, and I just remember it was like one of the most amazing experiences. She was petrified the whole time, but I was eating it up. And there was one point where they handed me a knife and they told me to come at one of the instructors. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. And I did. And the next thing I knew, I woke up on the ground and the knife was across the floor. And I guess they did some sort of brachial stun. And it was my first introduction to all that stuff. And from there, I just loved it. So whenever there was like a local self-defense class, begged my father to go send me to take it. Got into like a little bit of Krav Maga, a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu, took Taekwondo for a bit. Just something I always found fascinating, being able to solve like these different types of puzzles, how to get out of different types of things.
Now, do you generally do business under the name of Adrenaline Self-Defense? Is that your
Yeah, so that's kind of our umbrella name. We handle most of our corporate programs through Adrenaline Self-Defense. So we will travel all over the country. We'll do like active shooter training classes for corporations or groups. We'll do private self-defense classes for groups. And then the other side is the Women's Defense Company, and that's where all our women's programs are.
okay? So now, in the self-defense world, I think often we have this spectrum, if you will, where we have the traditional self-defense who offer traditional martial arts offering self-defense can be a very mixed bag, as you know.
Mhm.
And then on the opposite end, you normally have the reality-based self-defense guys who are just focusing on self-defense, but oftentimes operant conditioning, flinch-based reflex training, that kind of thing. Where do you see yourself on the spectrum, and how would you define your approach?
Yeah, so I think we are definitely on the reality based side of things. We know that for the vast majority of our students, that they don't want to do the traditional martial arts. They're not looking for like a long term program. They want to get in and get out. And some of them just want to take one class and they just want to pick up some basics, a couple things they could do to defend themselves. And so that's kind of what we really focus on. Like, what can we give them in a short amount of time that they could actually learn and remember for the rest of their life? So we're trying not to overcomplicate stuff for them, because we know they're not going to keep it. They're not going to continue to go on this journey forever. So let's give them a skill that, hey, they can go home, they can practice a little bit, think about it, and it'll stick with them.
Now, just a bit before, you said you do active shooter training. What other
Yep.
kinds of programs do you guys offer?
So the vast majority of the work we do, we have a multi-course program that's called our Warrior program, and that's like a 4-class program that we have for our students. We meet once a week for 4 weeks, and it's just all reality-based, down and dirty self-defense tactics. So we try to look at what are some of the most common attacks that are facing our students in our area and throughout the world, and how can they counter those attacks. So that's all we're focusing on. Again, we're not trying to overcomplicate it. We're not trying to give them a bunch of stuff that they might need on a rare instance. This is like what's happening in the world around us and how do we deal with it. So that's
Now,
going to be our biggest program.
okay. And do you offer, you guys travel around quite a bit to companies, and you've done everything from cruise lines. Do you often get very customized tailor requests for what you teach?
So we have kind of like two worlds. We have the companies that are looking just to throw something out towards the employees to keep them engaged, keep them busy, and then we have other companies that they have a true interest. Maybe something's happened at work. We've had, especially like in the healthcare field, where they've had employees attacked, specific circumstances, and so we will cater the program towards whatever that specific need is. If they don't know and they're just looking for something general, it's a general overall self-defense class. They may give us an hour or 90 minutes to come do a program, and so we want to give them 4 or 5 basic skills and really work on changing their mindset on how they approach violence.
Now, I had the good fortune of teaching at your school not that long ago. Um, it's a very different environment from what a conventional, certainly martial arts school would look like, but even conventional self-defense environment. Ashley, if I was asked you to define the kind of vibe in your room, how would you describe
Um, First word probably eclectic. But I don't know, I like it because it's got all these different visual pieces of interest. And then obviously for me, because I'm here all the time, it's like it's homey, it's comfortable. It's kind of like there's like a little bit of a relaxed vibe here, and there's all kinds of different art and stuff, and everything is just, it's not made to be frightening. And then we have students come in and like they'll pick out different things that they see, and then there's like something for everyone to kind of relate to. And then a lot of it's collections of stuff that people have brought to us as gifts, you know. So we have one girl that just went to Japan and she brought back a big poster for us that's hanging in the window, you know. So
Yeah, and
your place is like filled with like affirmations and
yeah,
positive poster art and graffiti, and it's quite different from the kind of kill 'em all and let God sort 'em out environments you get a lot of times in self-defense.
yeah, and we see that, we hear that from our students. We had somebody come in the other night for a class and said she went to go check a place out, and as soon as she walked in, just the overwhelming vibe of aggression, it wasn't for her, and so she's like, no, I came here instead. And then you see when they walk in the door, they see all these different things, whether it's an empowerment poster, whether it's a unique piece of art or a statue, whatever it is. It's something that kind of just puts them at ease. It's not that overwhelming, violence factory, which they see a lot of places that they go, and we know that a lot of our students maybe have come from past trauma, and so we're trying to give them something unique, something to take their mind off this whole process from the very beginning.
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of things you could answer here, but if you had to pick one of your biggest challenges, I'd like to know from each of you, what is one of the hardest things about teaching this kind of a program?
You want to go?
sure. I don't want to take what I think you're gonna say. Um, I think one of the toughest things for me is hearing the stuff that I'm already aware of as a woman in the world here, hearing other students say the similar things or the same things about like not feeling okay standing up for their space or their boundaries, and not wanting to like make a scene or embarrass themselves or embarrass somebody else. And not wanting to hurt anyone's feelings by like using their voice or diverting their direction when they feel uncomfortable with somebody. And that's something that's like, it's hard to hear because it just brings that awareness back that it's so prevalent that other people are experiencing it too. And trying to help them come around to not feeling that level of fear or insecurity or just like that personal restriction for trying to do the right thing societally. That's like one of the toughest things for me.
Yeah. And then on the other side, I see a lot of students that look at a self-defense class as maybe just an extra activity to do, some sort of entertainment. They're not looking at it from a value standpoint or investing in themselves. So I constantly get people that are looking for a class and they'll reach out and, maybe they're looking for a $10 class or, whatever it is, like something extremely low, just because they're comparing it to going to a movie or bowling or something like that. And so it's tough we see so many people that have been impacted by violence, and we want to let them know, like, here's the challenges that are happening out there. Like, this is probably one of the best investments you can make in your life. So put yourself first and look at it as a program for you, not something just to go do for fun on an afternoon one day.
Yeah, this I get. I try as much as I can not to be too judgmental. And when I look at other approaches, I try to say, hey, different path up the same mountain kind of thing. But there is nevertheless, I think a huge problem is that everybody on social media kind of has equal standing, and oftentimes people with higher production value, even if they have terrible skill, get more eyeballs, get more views. Is there or are there things that you think are really damaging to the idea of self-defense that you see out there on social media quite often that kind of drive you nuts?
Yeah, so I think you're right. Exactly what you said. We watch videos all the time, seeing what's out there, seeing what's going on, and a lot of times we'll see something that looks pretty cool, and we'll try it. We'll attempt it here and run through it, and some of the stuff is just so bad, and when it comes down to reality, and it doesn't work, and it's like, oh my God, are people watching this and thinking like, here's a viable technique I might be able to use one day when if you don't have a willing partner behind the camera working with you, it's never going to play out in real life. And so it's scary to see some of that stuff. And you're
Yeah.
right, and it's production value. It looks cool, it looks neat, cinematic, but at the end of the day, it doesn't offer any benefit. It could be downright dangerous. And I can tell you, not only from a video standpoint, I've taken classes, especially like in the world of Krav Maga, um, and not to knock that art, but there was a lot of skills that we learned that I think are going to get you killed. It works great in class, it works great with your training partner, but in reality, the slightest things change, and now we're in a really bad spot.
Actually, do you have any pet peeves, particular ones that stand out?
It's
Mine are similar, but when I watch videos and stuff where it's like something that even like we've tried or we teach not to do, that stuff's like on the internet videos and stuff, and it kind of makes me cringe because I'm like, oh, they're telling all these people and like there's a whole bunch of views on it that this is something that it actually
yeah,
doesn't play out very well in real life or like even when we're trying to do something like that. um and then it's just one of those things that kind of like it makes me worried if people are watching these things and like thinking they're be able to pull it off and then it's not effective.
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of that we see, I think, especially in the gun and knife defense
Mhm.
world, just see some really cool looking stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna get
That's
killed.
mine is that there's never a behavioral delivery mechanism, and this guy's going from a dead stall with some kind of
Sure.
scissor in his arm and
Yes.
Yep.
drives
Yep.
me crazy. Um,
Yeah.
do you if I had, and I know it's a tough one, but if you had to give, it doesn't have to be your best one, but a simple practical skill just for everyday awareness, detection, and avoidance, if each of you had to choose one that a listener could kind of implement without much training, what would it be?
I would say the biggest thing is trusting our intuition. I cannot tell you how many people that I've heard from over the years that just had a feeling, just had a feeling something wasn't right, and I've been guilty of this too, not trusting my gut for something. Um, and we talk ourselves out of it. We're being paranoid. We're overthinking, and then all of a sudden, we're approached by some sort of violence. So I would say the biggest thing is, self-defense or not, we all have that gift, that intuition, that gift of fear. Gavin DeBecker has that great book, Gift of Fear, about it. I mean, if we could just trust ourselves, and when something seems out of place or something doesn't seem right, if we just did something different, we came up with a plan, whether that was turning around and walking back in a store, or picking up the phone and calling the cops, or carrying ourselves a little bit bigger, or using our voice, or coming with a plan to fight, just trusting the gut, I think would be a huge one.
Yeah. Ashley, what would you?
Yes. I mean, mine is along the same lines. I was going to say trusting your gut. And then I remember the first time I even heard Chris say something about, like, we often hear from people that they knew. And then, like, that kind of just made me tear up, because that was my experience. Like, I knew it. I knew, and I didn't listen to my gut. And then that kind of goes along with the thing we were talking about before, is like having that feeling that something's wrong, but even more than like thinking I'm being paranoid or whatever, it's like I have this bad feeling, but I don't want to stand up and offend this person, or like even go into a store, say there's somebody standing by the door that I don't feel right about, instead of going ahead and using the other door once that I see that person, if they see me, like going ahead and using that door anyway, because now I don't want them to think like I'm avoiding them. But now, after having taken classes and everything like that, I have no problem going ahead and doing that, and I feel good about it. Because I've been in a couple of situations before where it really did me damage to not listen to my gut, just out of fear of whatever it was, not wanting to stand up for myself, or thinking I was overreacting, or being afraid of what the consequences might be on that person's end if I, made the decision to divert my direction or to say no.
I'm going to use this opportunity for a pre-plug of your book. Rewired is it's transforming trauma through self-defense training. It's available worldwide on Amazon. I would have answered either trust your gut or learn to assert your limits. I have for like 15 years. After reading this book, I've been reading a lot of trauma-informed self-defense, and the sort of sub-message. It's not really something you specifically say, but there's a lot of learning to love yourself in the book. And I think this is something that's completely missing in the reality-based feral self-defense world, where it's all about being as vicious as you can, trying to impose assertiveness on somebody who has survived trauma or who has some sort of self-esteem issues is very, very difficult. And I don't think it can be built on anything other than a basis of learning to love yourself again. And that's something that a lot of survivors really struggle with. I know I did. So I just want to thank you in advance, because I had the good opportunity to read this before it came out. I have a testimony on the back. It's full disclosure, I'm a big fan, but that's something that really came out and has sort of been cementing in my consciousness in the last 6 months, in a huge part because of meeting you guys. So I just want to thank you for that. Getting back to your varied contracts, when I look at you on social media, I was like, God damn, like you guys are on ocean liners and every company possible. Can you choose any random contract that you did that was memorable for any reason, good or bad?
The one that stands out to me was we had a contract with the U.S. Navy, and we were doing classes for female sailors on one of the bases here in town. And it hit me at one point during class that here's our United States military, working hard to keep everybody safe. You feel like they have some level of toughness to them, and seeing what they are dealing with, what they're being impacted by, and realizing that the students that are in these classes are suffering trauma at the hands of maybe fellow sailors or military personnel. And it's like, I'm glad we're there at one point, but the other point, I'm like, God, why do we have to be here? Like, why is this happening? You would think, like, in one of the most elite segments of society, where everybody should be working together, everybody should be safe, everybody should be strong, this wouldn't be happening. But then there's such a need for it, So that kind of just hit me as a love-hate class. Like, I love that we're here, but I hate that we have to be here for this. So that one's always stood out with me.
There's a lot of environments like that where the training becomes its own form of trauma. What they're getting
Yeah,
is, yeah. Ashley, do you have any
absolutely.
standout contracts that pop into mind?
Um, there's a little bit from everything that are really like standout moments. But as far as like any of the classes, my favorite thing is the kids camp, honestly. Like, we do what, two of those every summer. But I love that the kids are in here and like at a young age coming in and like getting a whole transformation in their mindset and their like excitement to stand up for themselves and they get rowdy, which is awesome because they come in real shy and everything. And then it's such a big change in them. It's really cool. I love seeing that because then it gives me so much reassurance that they might have an easier time after being in here for summer camp, going through the rest of their lives without having to have something happen where they didn't know that they could stand up for themselves or speak up for themselves.
Yeah, that's a good one too. We do a couple girls summer camps each year, and we have them next week. But that's another one where yeah, it's cool to see like them progress and see them become little warriors at the end of it. But then also, I always watch at the end because they get to demonstrate what they've learned to their parents as their parents watch, and we'll see parents tear up. And part of it is because they're so proud of them, but the other part is like, man, they have to be here. Like it sucks that in this world in this society that I've got to send my child to come learn how to protect themselves. So it's again a love hate. We love having them here, but I'm like, man, I wish this wasn't a topic.
Yeah. I think anytime you get an ex-student come up and thank you for the skill that they've needed, it's amazing.
Mhm.
When you can't recognize them because they're so much older, that's like
Yep.
it's mind-blowing. Do you
Yep.
have any dream contract that you would or organization you'd very much like to teach for?
Anything on the list? Um, I would love to get more into the schools. It's always been a goal to get these classes in front of, I think, some of the most vulnerable, especially like our middle school age students. There's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. We get to do it every now and then, but it's tough to get that going on a larger scale. There's been some talk of maybe trying to work on a nonprofit to where maybe we could get into the schools a little bit easier, and at least offer maybe a couple times a year, or maybe to the graduating senior class of each of the schools, a self-defense class, because we're seeing a lot of our students that come to us maybe in their 30s and 40s that unfortunately were impacted by trauma at that school age. And so it'd be nice to be able to get in front of a larger group at a younger age. Maybe that could change a little bit. So that would be a big one for me. Yeah.
Ashley, do you have any bucket list clients?
Um, I have quite a few, but I'm not on that note. Like, um, I think, I think it would be. I mean, it's again sucks that it would be necessary. But I think it would be awesome if self-defense for women or teenage girls was just kind of part of the curriculum at like a PE class or something in middle school. Like it wasn't a big deal or wasn't a scary thing, but it was just like part of it to kind of set them up a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've been teaching 35 years. I have one standout contract, Lauren Hill, junior high. The staff there is 100% behind it. Been there for about 10 years.
Mhm.
They're amazing, but it's one in a lifetime, so they're that rare. So I know the struggle. Because you do deal so much with survivors of trauma, um, and you know full well how difficult that journey can be. I often think when I think of a school like yours, I believe people are walking in your door that otherwise would not walk in any door. I'm certain of it. And we're still not getting them all, right? There's still people that are too hesitant to come in. To someone who's listening at home, who survived trauma, who maybe is handcuffed by it, they're being debilitated by it, are there any tips that you could give them to help them manage that?
You're the expert in this.
This preface. Um, I mean, I guess one of the biggest things that I can think is being in that position. It's like the amount of shame and feeling completely isolated and alone is horrific. So I would first want them to know that like themselves, they have nothing to be ashamed about. The shame's not on them, it's on the perpetrator. And like they're not alone. I know it like feels that way for sure, but there are a lot of people that have had to go through that journey, and everybody's thing is different. Um, but that they're not the only one. Like they don't have to suffer by themselves. There's people out there that would be more than willing to sit beside them through it. And but like the massive thing for me is if they were able to know that like it's not on them. Somebody else did something bad and it's not their fault. Like something horrible happened to them, but not because of them. It's because of the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you
And
want to add?
I would say just from our environment, from a self-defense standpoint, is I can sympathize how many don't want to go to like a traditional self-defense class or a martial arts class because it can be overwhelming, it can be scary. Maybe the clientele there is different than a group of people that maybe have been through trauma before. I I think as far as what we do, and I'm sure there's many other places that do it as well. We want them to know that it's a community, and like Ashley said, they're not alone here. A lot of the students that we have here on a regular basis have dealt with trauma before, and we've seen the connections that the students will make with each other. It's an awesome thing to see. It again, it's horrible that this is the reason, but when they get to meet other students that have dealt with something similar, have dealt with trauma, they form this bond. And I think it just opens up their world. They see that they're not alone. There's other people with them, and they can work on a common goal of healing together. So we want them to make that first step in. And I know it's got to be god awful tough, but if we can get them just to show up, we can show them that we care, and the students that are already here care as well.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Any sport, any physical endeavor, martial arts instruction, whatever else is demanding on the body. But what you are doing is emotionally demanding on a exponentially higher level. How do you self-care? What do you do? What kind of tips could you give somebody for managing all of the trauma and the negativity that you have to ingest when you're helping your students?
Um, Personally, like for me, I have my own therapist that I can kind of like debrief things with and go through being able to tell her everything that kind of comes through as like secondary trauma, just as like anybody that deals with this kind of stuff. Also, it's just hard to hear all the stories and know the things that are happening to people. But for me, being able to like have things that are self-care as far as like going out in nature and kind of having that time to kind of like regroup and recollect energy, and just something more calming, but also someplace to let everything out. So I have the certain places that I like to go to, certain kind of animals that I'm drawn to and everything like that. So it's a little bit animal therapy, a little bit of environmental stuff for me.
Yeah. And that's one that I probably struggle with. I probably need a therapist. I and honestly, I used to go out with one of our late instructors that had passed away, but we'd constantly go out after a hard class and go get drinks, and so you try to drown it away. And that used to kind of be my go-to. Not a healthy way of dealing with it, and I don't do that anymore really. But I think one of the biggest things that has helped is we had started a program years ago. It was called Power and Peace, and it was a way to kind of slow everything down. And so we started doing some morning classes where we blended self-defense with meditation, or we did the self-defense moves, but in almost like a Tai Chi-ish fashion, super slow, and worked on breath work and breathing, which I always thought was super hokey, all that kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, that's not for me. But I knew people liked it, and so we started looking into it and started developing a curriculum. And I was surprised on how that helped me, because recipe probably for a disaster, high blood pressure and stressed out and nightmares, and hearing student stories of everything they've been through was just like overwhelming. So I think just by being able to slow things down and focus on the breathing and on ourselves and movement, I think that was a nice outlet to kind of help deal with some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think another big thing for me too is like another class that we have, the ongoing one, Fight Club. That's a huge outlet for me too. So being able to like go ahead and practice with everybody and be a student in one of the classes, that's like all about being able to go kind of full out with the techniques that we learn and getting a little bit
More aggressive.
with it. That's major for me because I know when I just got out of a vacation with my family and like not being able to be here and do that kind of stuff, I missed it. I could tell the difference.
Now, tightly related to that, do you have a favorite tactic or technique for getting motivated when you're feeling lethargic?
Hmm. Hmm. The biggest thing for me is just showing up here. This is kind of my happy place. So I'll come a couple hours before class and just settle in and kind of take everything in. And I always like to reflect on the classes that we've had and the students, especially students that have shared stuff with us before, or remembering students that have shared something that saved them or got them out of a jam. Just remembering like the reason why we're doing this is the motivation for me. So yeah, I just like to come, get settled in, think about where we've been, what's going to happen next, why our students need to be here, what they're looking for, and how we can help them.
Mhm. Yeah. And particularly, I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but particularly in the current environment or climate, there's things that are making like that really kind of light that fire in my belly.
I
And
understand.
yeah, thanks. um, and that's one of the big things that re-sparks that sense of purpose and getting in here and being like super eager to be able to teach the girls and the women that come in here. Makes me really excited about it to be able to share this kind of stuff, especially I guess in lieu of being able to, sit at home or be anywhere else and
Yes.
not be able to be here, not be able to serve that purpose. So that's a big one for me.
I think it's safe to say the need is at an all-time high without
Mhm.
details. Um, to the people listening who are already training, or specifically to people that might be teaching, sometimes we get lost in the pursuit of the violence, of the aggression, the technique, the coolness of it. How do you balance healing trauma or healing the self with learning aggressive things?
Yeah. I remember kind of a standout moment where we always like to see the progression of our students. And so it was, for the longest time, I always expected it. I always thought we're going to get the students from point A, and then we're going to see like this big confidence boost, and they're going to have the techniques, and they're going to do great by the end of the program. And I remember one specific class where we had a whole family come in, and they just struggled the whole time, to like all the way through the class, just very meek. You could tell something maybe had happened to them before, but they were just struggling, and I could barely get them to even say a word through the entire class. Um, we still have you, Kevin? We still
Yeah.
there? Okay,
Yes.
we lost you. We lost you for a second on our side.
Oh, no.
And then so by the end of the class, the only thing I really got was them being able to use their voice just a little bit, and it ate me up for the longest time that I couldn't get them past that, further than that. But then after just kind of talking with another instructor that was helping me, it was like everybody's on a different journey. And although we want them all to be like totally prepared and equipped and badass by the end of a course, that journey is a different pace for a lot of people. And so if we can just work on moving the goalpost slightly,
Mhm.
and maybe somebody just comes in and they can say no for the first time in their life, there's some comfort in that. And so I've learned to kind of accept that and slow down a little bit, and we try to work with people wherever they're at and whatever pace they're at. And so if we just move it a little bit and we get them a little bit further than when they walked in the door, like that has now become a win for me. I feel good about that now.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say patience was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Kind of having that attunement with each student and being able to um, meet them at their level and be an ally and encouraging and like a safe spot, but also, like letting them know and like kind of believing in their ability to do the things that they might be hesitant to do at first. And if they don't want to, no big deal. But as they decide they want to get further into a technique or further into the level of aggression that they want to perform or show or exude, that we're here for it, and then, but massively just kind of like taking our time with everybody and being willing to be patient and kind of watch where they are at and hear where they want to be.
Yeah. I would say another big variable in the self-defense world, whether it's from traditional martial arts or reality-based stuff, is the sort of responsibility of what's being taught. Very often you have these kind of hair-triggered schools where, they're teaching if you get encroached, rip out the eyes, kill the guy, he came too close. How do you balance, especially in this litigious world, how do you balance responsibility with ferocity?
Hmm. I would think for me, in all honesty, we lean on the side of veracity. Um, Probably not the best thing to say, but we have seen the effects of violence on so many people, and we've heard the stories. We've seen the aftermath with students. I've seen it with friends and family members, and so we have a lot of students that are very timid. They're very worried about hurting somebody. They're very worried about, are they going to get in trouble? And so, I try to, or we try to instill to them that they have every right to defend themselves. There should be, or there's supposed to be, a level of proportionate response. That's a big gray area. But we tell them, if you genuinely feel that your life is in danger or your personal safety is in danger, um, I would rather you err on the side of more intense aggression than not standing up to it or freezing or worried about legally getting in trouble. Like, we don't want people going out and attacking somebody. We always want them trying to find a way out of the situation. But once that window closes, I want them to do whatever they need to do to keep themselves safe. I really do. And if we have to deal with the legal stuff on the backside of that, then that's what we'll deal with. But I need them to go home at the end of the day. So, and it just a big thing we see with our students, because again, so many of our students, this could be different in a more male dominated self-defense environment, but with the females, especially, we're trying to get them out of that thought process that they're going to get in trouble, or they're going to increase the level of violence if they stand up for themselves. So,
Ashley, I'm going to throw a follow-up question to you, because particularly in women's self-defense, there is so much negative social conditioning. I think like the worst thing in the world is to read comments on boxing videos, or self-defense videos. If it's a female performing it, the most popular comments are always, "What could she do? Get back in the kitchen. I'd kill her in 10 seconds." There's this need for so many men to immediately minimize any attempt by a woman to gain assertiveness. How do you
Mhm.
deal with that?
How do we deal with it?
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Practice.
yeah. Yeah. A lot of variations of things happening in my head. I think for the most part, it's so aggravating to kind of have to accept that that's the way that a lot of people are. I hate it, but that's kind of the reality. And I think one of the things that I've had to kind of come to on my own after, especially having started classes, and like I didn't tell a lot of people about it when I was doing it because I don't need them to know. And but like as people started to find out, it would be a lot of comments like that. And then for for me, it's kind of like I don't really care what you think. It doesn't really matter because um I know it's what we're capable of. And like the stuff that they say that they need to say for whatever reason on their ego level, to be able to have that power over and stuff, like that's fine, because it's kind of irrelevant. Like it sucks to hear and it's annoying, but it really doesn't matter at the same time, because
Yeah.
the reality, the actual reality is something else.
And I would say that goes back to your environment too, because so many women are training in these typical MMA gyms and whatever else, and the environment is just as toxic as social media. And they go in there and they're trying to gain dominance, but they have to play all these games or in the military, and it's just terrible. So I think
Yeah.
the safety of the environment that you're offering is immeasurably important. You touched on it a bit, but I want to kind of go deeper just because I know when I teach, a very common reluctance is this idea that what if I fight back and I make them angrier? And this is a very persistent mental handcuff that exists out there. What would you say to someone who has that fear?
Yeah, and we get that question a lot from students during class. Sometimes they'll ask, just by standing up for myself and using my voice and telling somebody to get back or no, isn't that gonna make them more likely to come and attack me? And we try to tell them, for the most part, somebody has already decided to be a criminal or to not be a criminal. Um, so somebody's already decided that they plan on carrying out some sort of attack or some sort of crime today. And the question is it going to be you or is it going to be somebody else? So by standing up for yourself and using your voice, we have an option to maybe change their mind and let them know that not the easiest target to go after, or we get our answer and that aggression keeps coming, but now I got my answer and I can get a plan together to start working with it. But I'm not taking a non-criminal, a good person, an ordinary citizen off the street, and by standing up for myself, now convincing them to attack me. It just doesn't play out like that. You're either looking to commit a crime or you're not at that point. So I tell them we gotta stand up for ourselves. We gotta send that message up front. It puts us in a much better position to maybe change somebody's mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then on beyond the using our voice part, so I think also, like, if somebody decided to step in and start to impose violence, or something more like something that's unwanted, yeah, and then if we stand up for ourselves, or we, dissent to whatever's going on, and then it increases the violence, that I think that kind of comes into, like, that, sure, like that might be likely, because I think that's one of the reasons we even evolutionarily go into a freeze mode, is to, like, not increase the level of violence that's going to happen to us. But I'm not okay with that shutdown, like the submissive, like, I'm just going to let this happen. I understand that happens because I've been there.
Mhm.
But that's one of the reasons, like, I feel strongly about it, because at this level, or at this time, after having gone through that, I think that's one of the reasons it's important to kind of get your own attack going as
Yeah.
soon as you know the threat is real, and to not wait until something has already happened. You try to kind of take care of it before they get a chance to make it much worse.
There's quite a bit of research as well showing that from like victim selection, it's much more likely if you're passive or distracted or alone. So if you're more assertive to begin with, you're less likely to be chosen. There's research showing that if you start off distracted or meek, but then escalate after you've been targeted, you're more likely to
Mhm.
discourage. And even if we look at statistics on retaliation, generally, even if you go full feral, the encounter is more likely to end sooner and you're less likely to get as seriously injured. And
Mhm.
there's all sorts of studies on turning your back and triggering this sort of archetypal predator reflex in people. So, all I would say to people out there, if you're listening, fight back the minute you feel threatened, because although the fear is very natural, you're actually much less likely to be hurt. As a bouncer, we always used to say the most humane thing to do was to end a fight quickly, because the longer that fight goes on, the more likely you are to get injured in the exchange, right? Um,
Mhm.
the reality is that a lot of listeners might have tried something and had a bad experience at a gym, or they might have been scared to go in. Some of them might doubt their age, they might doubt their size, their physical strength. to that person who's listening, who's thinking, but what can I realistically do? What would you say to them?
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really important if somebody chooses to go take a self-defense class, is finding some place that they're comfortable. Um, we're big on working with students, whatever age they're at, whatever maybe physical limitation they have, and finding workarounds. There's always a workaround. We've come across classes where we're teaching a technique, but it's not going to work for somebody because of a particular limitation. So let's like find a workaround, and even if that goes back to, okay, well, now awareness is going to be everything for you because maybe we can't do this physical aspect, then we at least want them to know that. So there's always something to learn. There's always some way that we can improve our safety. I think there's always options, and that's what we want them to have. We don't want anybody to feel like there is no option, because there always is. Even if they're old, there's something they can do to increase that level of protection or safety.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say like can understand the having a bad experience somewhere and being like I don't, that's not something I'm into, or like I don't want to I don't want to do that again. But if it's something that still holds an interest, maybe not like write it off, because it is very much a scenario where it could have been like just that place, or maybe it's a number of places and you're looking for the right one, and it's kind of maybe similar to the idea of like even finding a therapist, where like you can see so many and there's going to be one that's a good fit, like somebody you feel comfortable with, whereas everybody else wasn't your style, you know. So if it is something that holds an interest for anyone that has had a bad experience in the past, maybe keep trying, you know. Some of the research can help. I know for me, I was like reading a lot of the reviews to kind of get an idea of what people thought of a place, because I was terrified to go try taking self-defense classes in the first place, and the gym environment isn't really my thing because I feel judged there. So it's really just finding a place that is comfortable, safe, and with the different ability levels, or even this different physicalities, there is stuff that we can work with to get towards the same end goal. And I remember we had that one lady that had to sit in a chair the whole time. She was an older woman with different physical limitations, and she still ended up like wanting to participate, and she shocked herself because she didn't think that she could do anything, didn't have any kind of level of strength. And just even by like speaking up and using her voice, and she broke a board while we were sitting here and everything, and she was so excited. And she'd realized she wasn't like, she had felt helpless before that. She's like, well, I guess that's it if somebody wants to try something with me. And then she realized like she has a powerful voice, and she has different options, even in the state that she's in with having to be in a wheelchair or whatever. So
yeah, and I think it's finding the right home is what it comes down to. And we have students that'll call that are maybe from out of the area, and they're asking for, do you know anybody that'd be good for us to go try? And I always tell them, I'm like, just go try out places, and you'll get a feeling usually up front whether somebody's passionate about what they're doing, and regardless of what the art is or what the style is, you're going to find somebody that's a good fit because they're there because they want to be, or you're going to find somebody that maybe it's just a factory and they're trying to get you in and out. So go try things and see what you're comfortable with, see what you like, see who you connect with.
Absolutely. All right, now it's time to talk about your book. So Rewired's only been out for what, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
probably.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Tell the listeners about what inspired the book, the journey that led to it, and what it's about.
Okay. You want to start?
Okay. Well, what happened? I don't know. We at some point had been discussing what we were seeing in here with people starting to transform after we had known that they were in traumatic experiences. And kind of the banter back and forth ended up being like, what if we wrote it down? Because we started to think like, I wish we could tell people about this so they can do further research, or kind of like try it out themselves. And so the one of the main points I feel like was to get the word out from what we had noticed, to see if it could help other people that are either in the therapeutic community or the self-defense community, to kind of like see if they could reach out and help more people heal that are going through PTSD or different variations of symptoms post-trauma. And one of the main things for me was I already had a background in psychology. So I also have had a background in having traumatic experiences and going through the gamut of therapeutic processes and whatnot, to try to heal from it. And it was kind of like I had healed a great amount since before having to gone through therapy and all the other things. But I ended up being at kind of a standstill, still having a lot of symptoms that were extremely debilitating, frustrating, and it kind of just put a damper on a lot of the hope that I was starting to have. And then that's when I ended up in here, and I had such a different experience of life after being in here. And there was so much involved, but I couldn't believe the changes that were occurring. And so that kind of was one of the things that for me felt like it was important to kind of see what was going on. And then I started doing further research and taking more classes to try to figure it out. And at the same time, Chris had been noticing this stuff in other students also. And that's kind of where I think we came into talking about like maybe trying to get the word out and writing a book about it.
Yeah, for me, the healing aspect of self-defense training was kind of just a byproduct of the self-defense. Like I never thought about that when I started this. I was like, oh, I want to teach people some cool stuff, help them stay safe. But then just started seeing so many changes in the students, especially ones that had come in and disclosed that they had dealt with trauma in the past. And I think we put it in the book, for a lack of a better way of saying it, a lot of times we would see students, and I kind of describe them as like broken birds, not able to fly. And within a relatively short amount of training, there was this whole different person at the end of it. Somebody that was able to speak up, somebody that was able to actually strike stuff, somebody that had fire in their eye again. And it was an amazing thing to see. And I never knew like what was happening behind the scenes, why that was happening from like a scientific level. That's where Ashley came in with a lot of that research and background and that information. But it was cool to see like there's science, there's evidence behind like why this is so beneficial for a lot of students that have dealt with this. And so yeah, we've talked about it, and even I remember when she first came in, was that 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, Ashley came in as one person, and then seeing her complete a course, she was somebody totally different. And so seeing that change happen over and over and over again for so many students, we're like, there's definitely something there. We need to get this information out, because maybe there are people that are stuck in their trauma healing journey, and maybe this could be something that could get them over the finish line, or get them in a better spot from where they were.
Yeah. What's next on the horizon for you two?
Well, when's your next course?
It's
I don't know.
close.
Yeah. The goal is always to have, at least for me, to have to reach a wider audience. To have our classes are very roller coaster like, either very busy or kind of on the quieter side. I always wanted to see just a consistent flow of getting the word out and getting students in here, so that we could help them. So just building the overall presence is a big goal of mine. I think again, a goal of getting in front of the younger students on a consistent level, maybe in a school setting, would be an awesome route to go.
Mm-hmm.
We had talked about this after your course. We'd love to come and do a course overseas somewhere, spread the presence all over the world. Why not? I don't know. It's an amazing journey. So we just want to keep it going.
Well, I'm going to implement this plug now. So, first of all, I'm going to recommend to everyone, go on Amazon, check out Rewired. It's a great read. If you are training in the martial arts, even if you don't think you're particularly traumatized or dealing with anything, I think it is an essential understanding to have. If you are teaching the martial arts, I would say it's irresponsible not to have it. And the vast majority of instructors, in my opinion, really are not that aware of it. Starting with something like this book is fantastic, but I would further recommend that people reach out to you. Even though you're in Florida and you know everybody might not be in your state, you're a great resource. I know you'd be willing to help them, but maybe, consider coming down and training with Chris and Ashley, or inversely having them come out to you. I will say it from experience. I taught self-defense a long time as a survivor of trauma with very little understanding of how to get through it other than with more aggression. And once I flipped that switch, started the research, started that sensitivity and that understanding, it not only made me a better practitioner, it made me a much better instructor, and it made me much better at handling real world aggression through awareness, detection, de escalation. So, getting into the trauma informed self defense world, I think, is super important. And there is no better gateway than you two. So, Chris and Ashley, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get you?
Yeah, so either womensdefensecompany.com or adrenalineselfdefense.com. Either one will get you to us. And yeah, we're more than happy. Again, we love this journey. We will do whatever we can to help people out. You're right. Uh, Going into writing the book, we had to do a lot of research, and I think it made us better as instructors as well, and it made us be able to help more people, especially that are dealing with trauma. So there's so much good information out there. We're willing to share whatever we can to help any instructor out become better at what they're doing.
Closing thoughts, Ashley?
Not so much. I appreciate this. It's awesome. So thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Guys, those links will be in the description below as well. I want to thank everyone for the requests and for listening. And until next week, stay safe and stay strong.